Okay, everyone. So welcome, everyone. It's great to see so many of you logged in for the second of our outdoors series of events, Diversity and Inclusion in the Outdoors, which synergises with the International Day of People with Disability tomorrow, December the 3rd. The theme this year is Fighting for Your Rights. And we've got a beautiful big PowerPoint that's come in, so thank you for that, Andrea. And the theme this year is Fighting for Your Rights in the Post-COVID Era, which ties in with today's presentation. I'm sure everyone would love to get solid advice on how to incorporate diversity and inclusion within their outdoors practice, so outdoor education and activity providers can find ways to further adopt inclusive policies in order to attract the wider community. That's why this webinar will have guest speakers from various underrepresented categories in the outdoors who will explore how greater diversity and inclusivity can be achieved. I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet today, including the land, water, and sky used for outdoor education and recreation. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. Okay, so before we start, we wanted to give you a brief of who Outdoors Victoria is and what we do. So OV represents the outdoors sectors of Victoria. We collaborate with people and organisations to advocate for a sustainable and respectful nature-based industry, and we encourage more Victorians to be active in the outdoors. Through our work and our passion for the outdoors, we recognise the need for a greater diversity of people to participate and share what they have to offer in a space where they are underrepresented. This brings us to the focus of today's digital series event. Now, Victoria has 6.7 million people and is celebrated for its beauty and diversity, from cultural wonders such as the Great Ocean Road, national parks and the bush, to our urbanised city heart, Melbourne, with its architecture, culture and endless things to do. Often Victoria is described as a melting pot of different cultures, so with many events, cuisines and experiences to try that may be new to you and me. Working together in the outdoor space, we believe that there is scope to further develop our understanding and support of the diversity of the many people that call Victoria home, particularly those living with disabilities, the LGBTIQA+ community, and those from migrant and refugee backgrounds. By promoting action and solutions that can create a more inclusive space for these groups, this can in turn help represent them accurately and authentically within the outdoor sectors. Shortly, I'll be interviewing our three fabulous guest speakers who will be discussing what strategies and solutions outdoor activity providers, teachers, and business owners are employing to overcome challenges that in the past have caused minority groups to become isolated and underrepresented. This should inspire the outdoor sectors to be at the forefront by offering a range of diverse and inclusive solutions for all to be included, not just the majority. In a post-COVID climate, it's vital that we look for ways to improve the mental health and well-being for all people's lives. This webinar will be conducted in a Q&A format. So if you have any questions of your own, please feel free to add them to the chat, raise your hand, and we'll try our best, depending on time, to answer a couple of those at the end of the webinar. We're also excited to announce that there'll be one lucky attendee who will be chosen from a random prize draw at the end of the webinar, who will be receiving a hiking gear prize of over $150, graciously donated by our sponsor, Outfitted Store. So stick around. Okay, now our guest speakers today are Mel Turnbull, the founder and CEO of Firekeepers and Queer Nature Connection, as well as Tony Bellette and Abbey Dawkins, campus principal and teacher respectively at the Department of Education's Blackwood Special Schools Outdoor Education Centre. And lastly, Neil McCulloch, founder of First Height Project. We'll start with a general question for all of our guest speakers to define in their own words, what do the terms diversity and inclusion mean to you? and afterwards we'll then move on to some more specific questions. So our first guest speaker is Mel Turnbull, who uses the pronouns they and she, and is the founder and CEO of not-for-profit Nature Connection organisation, Firekeepers and Queer Nature Connection. Mel is a white settler who grew up in a large, nature-loving and rambunctious family in Naarm on unceded Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung country. They have worked with people for over 25 years as a nurse, circus trainer, gymnastics coach, social justice mentor, outdoor educator, gardening instructor and queer leader. They're neurodiverse and passionate about building community and bridging connections between humans and the more than human world. Mel is a queer and non-binary step-parent and auntie who has deep love for Antarctic beech trees. We'd like to welcome Mel as our first presenter.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks.
Well, Mel, I might get you started with answering that, why are the people you support underrepresented in the outdoors, and how, actually, no, we don't want that one. We want you to answer that more general question, don't we, Mel? So
yeah,
the more general question was, in your own words, what do the terms diversity and inclusion mean to you, Mel? Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, well, when I think of diversity and inclusion, I think of the difference between a monoculture like a pine forest and a mixed species, incredible forest that's got so much exciting diversity and interest going on. I think diversity and inclusion means having a culture of allowance, which comes from the 8 Shields work. So allowing people to be part of programs and groups and culture and letting them show up in all of themselves and all of their gifts. All sorts of people feeling belonging. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Mel. And why are the people you support underrepresented in the outdoors? And how can we go about changing this, Mel?
So there's a whole lot of reasons why LGBTQIA folk are underrepresented in the outdoors. Some of that is cost, some of that is safety, primarily cultural safety, and belonging. Spaces, like, people can't be what they can't see. So if they haven't seen people like themselves involved in activities and out in nature, like, there is a narrative about who is welcome in the outdoors, and that's primarily white people, able-bodied people, fit males, primarily. So if we don't see those things, then that's not as achievable for folks. And there's a whole lot of things that put themselves up as barriers, and fear for people not showing up as their full selves and not feeling safe. So there's a bunch of things I'll talk about in the next question, I think, about how we can change that.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Mel. Yeah, so how can outdoor activity providers support more engagement from LGBTIQA plus people?
So there's some really simple stuff, which is pronouns, introducing yourself with pronouns, having your pronoun at the bottom of your email that signals that, like, hey, I know that people might use different pronouns to how they appear or how I judge you to be, which is immediately, as a gender diverse person, is immediately a signal that makes me and other people feel safe and like, oh, these people might be inclusive of different genders, different people, different expressions in the world. Also being able to use people's chosen names, for folks to introduce themselves at the beginning of sessions, introduce their pronouns and normalizing that. Also making sure that bathrooms are available that are appropriate for people. So seeing if there can be, like, bathrooms can be labelled with what's actually in them, not the people who are supposed to walk through the door. or having a third option. And also forms is another really upfront way that makes a place safe or not. So whenever I have to tick my title, it's always a bit of like, I don't know what to tick, and I don't want to pretend. So making things like that optional in forms, and allowing people to write their own gender if that's even necessary. And just also not assuming a mother and a father, and not assuming that a partner is of a certain gender. And I think outdoor activity providers can support more engagement for LGBTQIA folks by allowing space for those populations and other more diverse populations. And my question is, diverse from what? There's still an assumption there of what the baseline is, so that's an aside. But yeah, allowing space for people to tell you what you need, like tell you what they need. So at the end of my booking forms, I put, is there anything that can help this person to feel more comfortable or engaged in this space, feel safer, and then to be okay with receiving an answer and okay with getting feedback, to be graceful and curious, like, because we come from our worldviews of how the world is, and sometimes some people's feedback can be quite shaking and scary because it might question your norms or whatever. Yeah.
Well, Mel, thank you. Super helpful. Thank you. What does the ideal future for inclusivity and diversity in the outdoors look like to you? What still may get in the way?
Yeah, so my work is in nature connection, and I love looking at diversity. I love looking, I talked a bit at the beginning of, really looking for details in nature. And I, love bringing kids into looking for details. And I think more inclusion and diversity will just bring more stories and like a wider breadth of color and perspectives and understandings about the world. Like we all look at the world through different lenses, and people from different cultures and different sexes and genders and experiences of the world help us to see through these different lenses, and we can learn about how more beautiful the world is. And as we open doors to more perspectives, we can open them within ourselves, and we can explore the world in a different way ourselves. And whenever there's kind of rigid things about what's belonging and who's allowed, that happens within ourselves. So when we see other people engaging in different ways, that actually allows us to feel more free and belong, and to be able to show up in all of our different quirks as well. So I guess what gets in the way is maybe fear of not belonging, fear of doing it wrong, fear that it's hard. Diversity and inclusion is sometimes seen as really hard, and it is, because it's shaking our foundations of how we want to be in the world, like white fragility and all of that. But just, I don't know, just thinking of a monoculture versus a mixed species fabulous forest just helps me to I want to learn more. I want to be curious and see more.
Thank you, Mel, very, very much. And I think that's a really good point that you say that it's also about the wider population not fearing to actually have a go. Because I think in other spaces around the Indigenous Australian space, that's also been something that's been holding a lot of the population back, is fear of doing the wrong thing and certainly causing harm, where actually doing nothing is a lot more harmful.
And we're all going to make mistakes. We need to be okay with learning in public. And Firekeepers as an organisation is pretty white. Yeah, we have some queer folk involved, and we're running this Queer Nature Connection branch. I like to call it a branch of Firekeepers. But we have a long way to go, and everyone probably has a long way to go. But there was one stat that I heard yesterday about every safe space that a trans or gender diverse young person has access to reduces their risk of suicidality by 50%.
Oh, wow.
So, like, if we create spaces that are safe, the more spaces that we have accessible to people,
yes,
the more places they feel that they can belong, the more rich world we all get to be part of.
Yeah.
And that goes for all diversities. Yeah.
No, thank you very, very much, Mel. Really appreciate you being there today. This is also being recorded as well. I'm pretty sure I can confirm that with Andrea. So thanks so much, Mel. We'll continue to spread your very wise words.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Okay, well, now on to our next guest speakers, Tony and Abbey, who will connect further with the values of inclusion and diversity within the education sector, specifically in the work that they do. So Tony began at Blackwood in 2002 through his drive, passion and determination to provide inclusive outdoor experiences. He has been a key driver in the 9-year process that successfully gained a student resource package fully funded by the Department of Education just this year. This funding allows Blackwood to further students' learning and outdoor opportunities that they have generally been excluded from in everyday living. Tony's passion for challenging students to extend their comfort zone has continued to grow over his 20 years of working with students with an intellectual disability. He regularly finds himself inspired by the determination, the persistence, and the enthusiasm shown by students attending Blackwood. Now, Abbey began working at Blackwood in 2016 with very little experience of working with students with an intellectual disability. After seeing the joy and enthusiasm not only of the students attending Blackwood, but parents, teachers and staff as well, it was clear to her that Blackwood was an extremely important place. It offers students unique outdoor experiences that they may not have had due to the limited opportunities in society. So, welcome Tony and Abbey, and we'll get you up to be able to say hello to everyone. I'm just trying to find you now on my screen, and we might go back to that original question to kick it off. So if you can define in your own words, and I'll let you take turns, Tony and Abbey, what do the terms diversity and inclusion mean to both of you? So thanks, Tony and Abbey.
Thank you very much for having us here. It's great to be part of such an important session, which is really cool. I'll jump in first. I wish I could give a really lovely, well-rounded analogy like Mel just gave. That was beautiful. For me, diversity and inclusivity is something that I see as pretty simple. For me, it's everyone having the opportunity to give whatever they want to give a go without being judged. And like Mel said, it can be seen as a really tricky subject, but for me, it's just letting everyone be themselves and being able to do whatever they would like in life.
Fantastic, Abbey. Have you got anything else to add to that, Tony?
Yeah, pretty similar, and well done to Mel. But yeah, looking at that, it's my interpretation is basically understanding that the human potential has no boundaries or discrimination, and that whenever we're working, whoever we're working with, we should always inspire and look for and then extend the abilities within every individual within their day-to-day lives or within what we provide for them to experience.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So to both of you, why do you think students that enter your schools generally are underrepresented in the outdoors?
One of the biggest reasons is preconception not understanding their abilities. So we regularly obviously work exclusively with special schools in Victoria and regularly talking to teachers when we're promoting the lessons and the sorry, that's our feathered staff members flying past. Yeah, when we're regularly promoting the lessons and the curriculum we provide, there's occasionally brick walls that are put up. Oh, my students can't do this, my students can't do that. And we look at it and go, well, why not? Why can't they participate in the high race? Why can't they abseil? Why can't they do archery? And it's trying to give them the opportunity to look at their students in a different way. Many of the staff that visit Blackwood have only seen their students within the four walls of a classroom and haven't had that opportunity to bring them into the outdoors and on occasions allow them to excel in the outdoors. And there's also occasions where they sit back and they realize that, well, maybe we are holding these students back and we shouldn't have these preconceived ideas and just let them be themselves and let their abilities shine. And then also sometimes within the students, they have preconceived ideas as well. Maybe it's their upbringing, maybe it's their thought process, but sometimes when we present lessons, they can't process the risk management of it all, or they can't understand what's required of them. And that increases their perceived fear and they sit back for a while and they have to process it until maybe they see their friends participate. And then they suddenly go, okay, well, maybe I can break down these preconceived ideas and I can have a go too. And then occasionally we do get students that come through that live an outdoor life beyond the classroom with their families and friends, and they come up here and they really do excel and show us up on many occasions.
Fantastic, Tony. Abbey, anything else to add?
No, Andrew, I think Tony covered that beautifully. I'm happy just to skip to the next question.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, so what are some examples from your education model that have been adopted successfully to include these students?
One of Blackwood's core values and something that we focus on really strongly is individuality. All the staff at Blackwood have a mindset around all of our students being able to do their best. And we really want to provide opportunities for them to do just that, to be their best. So we find being really flexible, being willing to learn and adapt our programs and our activities and the equipment that we use, that allows us to be more inclusive and let students have a crack at everything. Honesty and patience also helps us. So honesty in admitting that us as an organisation or a school, we don't know it all, but we're really willing to find that support in people who have knowledge that can support us and our students. And being patient with our students, allowing them to have the time to process how they can participate best, how they can see a risk and how they can grow while they're at Blackwood to challenge themselves. That's something that I think we do at Blackwood really well. Sometimes Tony's been around in this space longer, so he might have seen this more than me, but I think sometimes organisations or groups or schools can have a little bit of a mindset of, oh, we tried to include everyone, or we tried to change something, but it's kind of like that tick a box moment where we tried, we gave it a go, that's good enough, rather than really looking at something and changing their mindset and continuing to learn so that they can be more inclusive. At Blackwood, we're really good at experimenting until we hit the nail on the head, I guess, and get something right. I can't remember if it was Tony or Sid, our high ropes course builder, that we ended up flipping backwards out of a wheelchair while we're trying to figure out the best way to get our abseiling system up and running. They were harnessed in, of course, and very safe. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. Thanks, Abbey. Tony, anything else to add to that? Otherwise, we'll go to 3.
It's all good. Well done, Abbey.
Great. And then how can mainstream schools learn from your adaptations and practices to support underrepresented participants who might otherwise miss out?
It's back to leading by example, and Abbey mentioned the word mindset. It's the willingness to change your mindset, to challenge the mindset of others, and even on occasions to start with the question why.
I'm listening to a Zoom meeting.
Does that say you look like you're in your own little world?
Yeah, I am.
That makes more sense now.
I don't know what's going on there, but
Yeah, we might.
I talked about the fact that some of the teachers from that classroom
my
environment
new role next year, so it's not my
have that belief that
I'm doing.
their students can't do something. And it's just changing that mindset and getting that understanding of, yeah, you can change your mindset, and starting with the question, why? Why do you believe your students can't do that? But also talking to the participants, talking to those who are underrepresented, asking them what they would like to achieve, what they would like to experience, and inspire their participation, acceptance, and allow others to follow your lead. And find places and organizations that are willing to listen to you and willing to listen to the challenges you're facing, and then support those challenges. And then through that experience, I've used the analogy of becoming that primary school student again, and using your mind as a sponge, someone who wants to learn, who wants to inspire others and wants to help others by creating that knowledge within yourself that can then come along and inspire others to be represented and to increase their participation. So from personal examples, I spent a lot of time with Camp Mangyung, the YMCA camp,
Right.
back in the early 2010s, when we were looking at developing an accessible high ropes course, and gained an understanding of universal designs, and was fortunate enough to go to America and Canada and visit a number of camps over there. We're providing that. We're putting students in wheelchairs and adults in wheelchairs up in the sky, and looking at how they developed those programs and built those programs, and then coming back and helping others adapt their mindsets and showing that, hey, you know what, this is possible. And just having the belief in yourself to work with all students or all people with disabilities to get them those opportunities that they're looking for in the outdoors.
Awesome, Tony. Thank you. Abbey, anything else to add to that?
No, I think Tony's summed it up beautifully.
Fantastic. Well, we really appreciate your special insight around Blackwood, and yeah, lots of takeaways for us there across the school system in general. So thanks very much for how you're setting a benchmark for other schools to be able to adopt more inclusive practices that can support all students in their school, not just the able-bodied. So thank you, Tony and Abbey. Now, it's inclusivity that brings us to our next guest speaker, Neil, who will talk about his business model, which extends a hand to newly arrived youth from migrant and refugee backgrounds to welcome them into the outdoors. So equal parts social justice and love of nature led Neil to start First Hike project. He has hiked many of the world's beautiful places, from the Moroccan Atlas Mountains and South Africa's Drakensbergs to the Scottish Highlands and the American Rockies, with lots of places in between. Being an immigrant most of his life, he knows the trials involved in finding home in a different country, and wants to play his part in helping others settle into their wonderful new country. So welcome, Neil.
Unmute. Hi, Andrew.
Thank you very, very much. And I wonder if you can sort of take us through, in terms of diversity and inclusion, what do they mean to you in what you're doing with First Hike project?
Yeah, it's such a good question to start with. And honestly, I've loved hearing the answers from the other guests here today, and not wanting to go over all of the same points. I really loved their answers, but I think the only thing I can add to what's been said today is that it should ultimately lead to a change in the power structure. I think that inclusivity and diversity is great. It's essential to get everybody out and experience this beautiful country we've got. But at the same time, we're doing it within organisations that have a set power structure. We have people in charge. We have people saying what can happen, people setting the tone, creating and originating these ideas. And what First Hike Project is really trying to do is essentially run ourselves out of a job. So we really want all of the positions within First Hike Project ultimately to be run by the people that we're directing this project at. So it's not just getting them out into the outdoors, but being new to the country, and 99% of our participants come from refugee backgrounds. They've got no networks, no support systems, no connections in this new country. So it's really hard for them not only just to find activity in the outdoor and to find out about hiking, but also just to make life work. So we're using what we've got as a platform to extend that help, not just to introduce the outdoors, but anything we can do, creating a board or bringing people on in supervision capacity. It's about challenging the structure, the systemic structure that we've got, that puts us in charge and them as recipients. We want to flip that on its head and one day look back at First Hike Project and go, man, that organisation looks like the participants. The whole thing is a homogenous organisation.
Fantastic, Neil. Thank you. And you've touched a little bit on the first main question for you. So just you can skip through a little bit of this, but which underrepresented categories of participants do you offer services to? And what are the barriers these people face when looking to do outdoor activities?
Yeah, Andrew, I'll never skip over answers. I'll keep talking while you give me the platform. Yeah, look, we are primarily targeting newly arrived youth who've come from refugee backgrounds, but we cast the net out pretty wide. Because inclusivity is inclusivity, we don't really turn anyone away. So, we've had everything from diplomats, exchange students to, Aussie kids who are just in the same classroom as these kids are when we pitch our idea. So we are wholly focused on people who have arrived from refugee backgrounds. Migrants come into that as well. But we get a really wide variety of people on our events. And the second part of your question was what barriers they've sort of got to getting to the outdoors. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of these participants that we've got they've never heard of hiking before. This is such a white type of activity. This is this is something the Western world does to get back in touch with nature. A lot of the people that we're taking out have been living in nature. Like they're part of it. They're not being separated from this ever until they got here. And now all of a sudden they're separated from the thing that they've been living within. So quite often we'll introduce the concept of hiking to them, putting all the stuff on your back and heading out to something they're so familiar with. And then they teach us a whole pile of things. Like, we've had kids out there teaching us how to call birds. They've never heard a particular Aussie bird before, and they're sitting there under a tree talking to it, whistling, and it's whistling back. And it's this level of connection that, learning goes both ways with us. So we're there to provide a safe space to take them out and bring them back in hopefully the same condition they left in, if not better. but the learning goes both ways. We don't propose to be there to teach them anything other than, you know, how to show respect to other hikers along the way and to take care of the country in the way we do, if not show us how to do it better. But yeah, we really want to break down a barrier that they just don't know the concept. Quite often, you know, a lot of Middle Eastern countries, they'll use the outdoors. They'll go out for huge picnics and family gatherings, but it's not a stay overnight type affair. They'll pack up and come home. So, you know, there's extensions to what they already know, and it's just introducing them to like how it happens here, how you're allowed to use the land. There are certain rules and regulations out there, so it's about imparting that. But after that, we really want to encourage them to use that knowledge and that skill into their communities. So we support as much as we can. We support them after coming on an event with us to, you know, bring more of their community out into the outdoors, do it themselves. So, you know, we don't buy expensive hiking food. We go down to Aldi and buy all of our grub for our events, keep it as cost effective as possible. So they're not seeing really fancy stuff and saying, oh, you need all this really elite gear and food and all this sort of stuff to make it work. You know, we'll be out there making camp bread on the fire around a stick and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And can you just remind us, is there a particular age range that you usually cater to?
Yeah, there is. So generally we'll go for something like 16 to 24s, but we hold that really loose. We've had anything from, well, actually we hold all sorts of different events. So we can have family events as well, where we've taken grannies and infants on day hikes into nice, easy sort of walks in the forest. No overnight camping with that mob, but so generally we'll aim at that cohort that are trying to finish year 10, 11, and 12, and they can be quite old sometimes, depending on how long they've spent in refugee camps or, you know, in limbo all over the place, or, you know, community detention, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, there's a general 16 to 24, but that also comes down to us wanting to be able to take them on a hike. So we want to be able to put a backpack on them. They've got to be strong enough to carry a tent and food and all of the gear. So the younger ones, we've got to tailor our events a little bit for outside of those age ranges.
Thanks, Neil. Great. And what are some examples from your business model that have worked so to successfully include these people?
Well, outside of what we do, so we generally take people, it's first hike projects. So we take them on their first overnight hike, and we'll introduce them to hiking, camping, orienteering, everything that happens out there. But we found that's just not enough. I mean, I put myself in their shoes and I'd go on a one-night hike with a day in and a day out, and I'd feel cheated. I'm like, come on, man, I want to be out there for way longer. And we get heaps of these participants who are like, is that it? Oh, no, like, what's more? So we want to bring them back. So we'll do like second hike project and third hike project with them. And they're kind of like our peer mentors. So we found that if we bring one or two peer mentors along and we give them that like little step up in a kind of, there's a leadership sort of role. It's really loose though, but they've been there before, they've done it. And we find that they're the ones that impart all of the information to the new cohort before we can even get to them. So they're like, you know, they want to be in the front and leading, and we'll give them the radio sometimes to lead the way and follow the signs and do a bit of map reading. And so just trying to get them more into being part of First Hike Project. And then past the peer mentor program, it's just a really loose arrangement. We've got a participant to guide training course that's kicked off in Perth, and we take it's a 6-month journey. We use the Bibbulmun Track Foundation's curriculum for their volunteer guides, and we run them through basically from being a participant to being a volunteer guide in this course. It's 6 months, and it's at the end of that, we've got a really great sponsor. I'll give them a plug, Wild Earth, hope I can do that. And they outfit these alumni with a full set of hiking gear, backpack, tents, sleeping bag, the whole bang shoot. So they're self-sufficient enough to come and be volunteers with us as well. And that's just a way of us sort of slowly but surely trying to run ourselves out of a job, like get more and more past participants into the program so that we need less and less folk that look like me to run the program, basically.
Yeah, fantastic. That whole you can't be what you can't see type concept.
Exactly right.
I was talking about, yeah. Thanks, Neil. And then last question, why do you think it's so important for minorities, migrants and refugees to be represented more publicly in the outdoors?
I just think it is. There's this whole narrative around mainstream, and we've defined mainstream as, again, folks that look like me, like I'm the mainstream. But it doesn't have to be like that. I think it's just reshuffling what that means. Like, why shouldn't we have a world or images out there that actually represent the world we walk around in? Like, it just is an area that has become or has always been really whitewashed, and it doesn't have to be like that. And I think the joy and the fun and the excitement and the happiness that we see from our participants when they're out there and they're throwing stones into a wee stream or they're climbing a tree, we've got pretty good insurance. So, you know, we just to see that happening, it just emphasizes that, like, every time I've been hiking my whole life, like, again, it's been a whitewashed world, and it never occurred to me that it was that until, you know, the narrative started changing well before First Hike Project started about trying to get representation out there that was more representative of the world we live in. So the more we can do that, the more we benefit as well from having an outdoors area that actually looks like our metropolitan areas. Like, it's diverse. We've got these influences, and, you know, we as a rule, if I just took something like food, we eat some pretty bland stuff, and if we served up some pretty bland food on our hikes, I'll tell you, it doesn't go down very well. So we've even changed how we prepare food, how we eat, how much focus we do on what that menu looks like and how tasty it can be. Salt and pepper don't have to be the only additives to a meal. You know, we're expanding and we're getting better. So, you know, we're benefiting from that. Even on my own private hikes, like, I just eat, you know, different now. It's not beans on bread. It's just something more tasty. So I think that benefit goes both ways to having a much more representative outdoor world.
Yeah, perfect, Neil. Thank you very, very much for being there today and sharing some really great insights about First Hike Project. So now it's time for our Q&A. And I might just revert across to Andrea or Renee just to see if there's any that we need to address in chat first.
Hi everyone. Sorry if you can hear the noise in the background. There's a whipper snipper going. But one of the questions in the chat was for Mel, and it was answered. It was, hi Mel, this is a travel agent and a pre-service teacher. Just regarding, is there an upcoming event from your company? And Mel, if you want to kind of, I know you've answered this in the chat as well, but if you want to come on now and explain it to everyone, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. I don't have any general events coming up just yet, but so like Queer Nature will be doing stuff in the new year, and Firekeepers as well over the summer holidays. But we do have an event next week that is for service providers, people who provide work with LGBTQIA young people. There should be a plus there as well, because yes, it's ever changing. Yeah, and I just put where you can find that event. It's on next Thursday at this time, actually, between 10 and 12. Yeah, for service providers. And I was talking to a bunch of young people the other day, and so it's also for young people who are in leadership roles, be it on councils or youth councils or running, school programs within that space.
Thanks, Mel, very much. Renee, is anything else there? Otherwise, we might open it to the floor.
Yeah, nothing else has come up to the chat, so yeah, we can open it up.
Yeah, Butte and Andre, what I might do is get you just to maybe pop off the Q&A so we can see a whole lot more faces on the screen. Thank you, and see if there's any other particular questions that come out. So please feel free to put your hand up or digitally put your hand up. We've got one here from Andrew Peach. That's the first one I saw, so apologies to everyone else, but Andrew, go for it.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Mel, and everyone else for your presentation. One of the ways that we've always in the past separated students or clients by gender is in their tents and accommodation. And I'm from Woodley School, and we've got a pretty big camps program here, but it's something we're working through and grappling with at the moment. I'm wondering, Mel, if you've got any suggestions or thoughts about what the future might look like for that, so that we can do that better. Do you know what I mean? And also keep kids and clients safe.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's something that really came up for me. I used to work at Wollongara, and we definitely split people by gender, and yeah, tents as well. I guess it comes down to like trusting young people and asking them where they would feel safe and who they would feel safe to share a tent with. But also looking at the purpose of dividing people by gender. Like I know some programs have boys programs and girls programs, and yeah, what is the purpose of that? And if you're going to do programs like that, could you do a third gender or queer or like a mixed program so that it's more inclusive and possible? Yeah, but it's a thing as well. Like we were always trying to prevent any wall babies. Like it's a thing. Like, yeah.
Thank you. Something still to grapple with. Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew, as well. Yeah.
I was going to say, and yeah, it's complex. We're used to things being black and white and simple and putting people in boxes, and it's really not that simple. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Andrew. Got any other questions? Please pop your hand up. And Andrea, Renee can also let me know if I'm missing anyone.
I had a couple of questions for Neil.
For sure, and then we'll go to Chris Mueller after that. So thanks, Chris. Go for it, Robin.
So Neil, I just had a general question about how you get your participants. Is it through school programs or through schools, or is it advertising?
Yeah, we run a variety of, we've got a variety of different relationships going. It started off at the ESL schools. So these kids, they're smart enough to pass school, but they don't know English well enough to do it. So they've got these accelerated English classes or parts of schools that run in parallel with the normal school. So we can go there. TAFEs that are teaching English is another place that we go. And also there's a lot of service providers. New South Wales, we use CORE and SSI. So it's generally keeping it easy for ourselves so that we will pitch to an entire group and then take, because we've got capacity to take 15 at a time. So we'll take an entire 15 rather than opening it up to kind of like we've got these events and trying to slot people in from all over the place. We fully volunteer run, so I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for our volunteers to pitch and get a group to come out with them.
Yeah, and just one second question. That's, do you think I mean, I can imagine the answer, but do you think that the projects like yours help the participants sort of settle into the land and their lives in Australia quicker, or yeah?
Look, this is really what we want. We haven't done a really thorough survey yet. We have got plans to in the future. We just had some student placements that ran through RMIT with us this year, sorry, and we've got the surveys linked up because we really want to make them feel more at home in Australia. I mean, that we want them to feel that this is their home and they're connected and they're welcomed and they feel at home here. And that's the premise that we started this on. And we feel from the feedback that we get, quite sort of not through a survey, just chatting, we can see that that's happening. We get feedback from the teachers that says they're opening up a lot more, and they just feel a bit more relaxed on coming back from our event. But it really is our aim to make them feel more connected, like after the harrowing journey they've been through to get here as young people. This is it for them now. This is their new home. Let's help them to put down their roots, and they might have learnt the buses and timetables and how to get to school and where do you get your groceries. But to me, that's not Australia. What's out there is Australia. So it's nice for that connection to happen, and in that connection, I'm hoping that makes them feel more part of what really is Australia.
Yeah, because it must be such a shock for some, people coming from such different landscapes, and like you say, just having different birds and, just totally different experience to coming here. So I think it's a fantastic program.
Oh, thanks. It's like we're looking at it for the first time ourselves sometimes. Like we're taking kids out who, have never seen a kangaroo before. So it's the most amazing thing they've ever seen. Whereas, we've seen 4 billion of them each. And sometimes you get a bit blasé about it. But to see that first time joy brings it back for all of our volunteers as well. So, it's quite a special little hikes. Thanks.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks. Just one for you too. We're connected to the RMIT Outdoors Club. So if you're not already connected there, they'd be very interested to likely help you. So I might connect you later on.
Love to. Thanks, Andrew.
Sweet as. Chris, you had a question, and there's a couple in chat, I think, as well. So go for it, Chris.
It's also a question for Neil. I was just wondering how you do the volunteering stuff. I mean, you obviously need, you have guides and stuff for your hikes. I'm a scout adventure leader, and I love hiking, and I just I've sort of got out of the regular scout thing for the moment, but I'd sort of thinking about maybe doing something like that, and it sounds really interesting. But how would you go about that, starting as a volunteer or connecting to someone like you?
Yeah, well, that's great. And this probably goes out to everybody who's got, proficiency in the outdoors on here today. We always love to get new volunteers, new skills and talent and enthusiasm in. So if you go onto our website, which is just firsthikeproject.org.au, we've actually got a join as a volunteer link there. It takes you through all of the processes of giving you working with children card and identification. We've got an online induction now that happens so that you can see our ethos and what we're all about before you come on board. And each group, so I'm taking you in Victoria, but Melbourne's got their own sort of Facebook group community, and they'll have meetings, planning meetings, and take new volunteers as they meet them. So I always encourage new volunteers to actually go to the meetings, meet the coordinators, meet the rest of the team, because we can't take you on a hike if we don't know you. So those meetings are pretty crucial to getting on one of our hikes. But yeah, jump online. Be great to have your registration come in. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, I have a look at that. Thank you. And I also have one quick question for Tony, I believe. Are you doing only hiking things, or are you doing bike things as well at Blackwood?
We have a range of programs at Blackwood. Most of them are sort of half-day, quarter-day experiences. Right. But yeah, it's with some of it is hiking. So and a lot of the hiking is that sort of 1 or 2 hours up to half a day to a full day. Yeah. We have been incorporating expeditions in the last couple of years where we base camp out for a week in different locations like the Grampians, Great Ocean Road, Wilson's Prom, our backyard here in the Wombat State Forest. Right. But then we also have other lessons or programs through that camp experience where we've got high ropes, archery, climbing, initiative and teamwork games, bush hut making, yabbying, mountain bike riding. Again, most of our mountain bike riding is just a 1 or 2 hour experience. Yeah. With a lot of the students having the ability to ride, but not within the terrain that we're based in. But then those that can, we can take them a little bit further for a half day, full day ride out through the Wombat State Forest or onto the Ballarat to Skipton Rail Trail, and different locations like that.
Right. Okay. Have you ever had kids on trikes?
Yes, we do have a couple of trikes, and we have a Christiana bike where it's a little bit like a rickshaw where we bring the wheelchair kids on backwards, and you're the one riding the bike, but you're sitting behind the students as the students sit in front. And we also have 3 events every year, one at Blackwood, well, every non-COVID year, one at Blackwood, one up in Myrtleford on the Murray Mountains Rail Trail, and one out of Yea on the Great Victorian Rail Trail, where we bring a volume of special schools together purely focused on bike riding. And occasionally through those events, we see schools bring up students who ride trikes, and other schools who bring up tandems. So it'll be a teacher or an adult on the front with students rotating that back seat to give them that experience and that opportunity.
All right, that's great. Do you mind if I contact you by email at some stage? Because I've got maybe some through the Scout group, couple of questions about going about the trike and tandem thing.
Not a problem. Anytime, and that's open to anyone. If anyone thinks of other questions, you're more than welcome to email through and get in touch.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Tony. I might just check in with Renee and Andrea before we finish up, because I think there's another question or two in chat.
Yeah, we do have a question from Daniela Cini. So it's a question for Neil. She asking if would migrant children under 16 be an age group you could consider in the future to take out?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always open to new ideas, but we are 100% volunteer run. I'm the only employee of the organisation, and I don't actually plan and take the hikes out myself. So it really depends on capacity, and it depends on the desire of those volunteer groups. We picked 16 to 24 because they can pretty much go anywhere and do anything. So we could take them on a hill climb or a remote campsite and that sort of stuff. So the younger we go, the more we'd have to tweak our itinerary. But it's always open for discussion. But the people who have that final say are always the coordinators and the volunteer group itself. So open to everything, but in charge of nothing, unfortunately.
Thanks for the question and the answer, Neil. Andrea, anything else there?
Well, Mel just shared some amazing social media accounts to follow that are great examples as well of diversity in the outdoors. You can see them there in the chat. And yeah, for questions, I think it's all for now.
And I think also, I just saw Tony Bellette's email come up. So the good person that was needing, it might have been Chris, I think, that needed the email of Tony. Thanks, Tony, for that. Much appreciated. Great. Well, would you believe it? It is actually 11:30. This has been incredible. So very.
We have our prize. We have to draw a prize.
Yes, that's right. We've got the prize. Watch out. Andrea, we'll get you go with the prize.
Okay, there we go. So let me just share my screen again with you. Okay, so we have our participants here. So we will have a prize is a $150 voucher for a hiking gear prize for Outfitted Store. So these are our participants today. And all right, let's see who's the winner. Hopefully this person is here with us. So Jess Lombardosi is just here.
Woo!
Great, fantastic, Jess. Congratulations. Fantastic. So we'll contact you, yeah, just to deliver your prize. Too easy.
Cool.
Andrea. Jess, congratulations. There we go. It wasn't just a lure, it was actually real. So congratulations, you're doing a little bit more outdoor activity coming up, I think. So yes. Thank you. But thanks very much to Mel Turnbull, to Abbey Dawkins, to Tony Bellette, and also to Neil McCulloch for your time and your inputs today. I've nearly run out of ink, and I'm sure some others have too, and the brain's spinning. And thanks so much too for just your interactions across with the participants. And you know, we look forward to continuing these conversations. So thank you very, very much for being there today, and we look forward to hopefully catching up with you at our conference on Thursday the 26th of May and Friday the 27th of May. A lot more details coming up in a newsletter and further, you know, OV industry chats as well. So we'll keep you in the loop. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yay.
Thanks to the OV team as well. And yes, safe travels over the next, you know, 6 or so weeks. Enjoy your rests as well.